Moving on to the technical session, I would like to invite our chairperson for today, Dr. Mrs. Savita Rawat. Ma'am, we are all honored, I must say, and feel a sense of profound impact your presence will have on this conference. Ma'am, your extraordinary teaching experience of more than 30 years in teacher education will surely enhance the success of this conference. You have various papers published in journals and have attended a plethora of national seminars. You have been a member of the Board of Management, GB Pant Agriculture and Technology University of Pantnagar. You are also the president of Council of Teacher Education Foundation, CTEF Uttarakhand chapter. Ma'am, in your technical session, there are 9 papers for presentation of duration 10 minutes each, including 3 minutes for discussion. Moving on, I'd like to invite our first presenter, Dr. R.D. Padmavati, who will be presenting on Carl Rogers' person-oriented approach, ameliorate higher order thinking skills among university learners during COVID-19. Ma'am, please, the platform is yours.
Good morning. Myself, Dr. from Department of Education from University. Today, I was going to present my paper. This is one of my research paper. For long 2.5 years, I was working on this area. Where before Corona starts and after Corona also, I feel what are the methods we are to make the higher order learned group of members. So I have kept the topic as Carl Rogers person oriented approach, assimilate the higher. Basically, I was a psychologist and I was handling the paper called guidance and counseling, and I was a guidance and counselor. I felt that many times students who come, they feel that they need the humanistic psychological approach to get the assumptions. So I thought Carl Rogers' approaches will be one of the helpful approach for assimilating their higher order thinking skills. Carl Rogers has followed many of the assumptions of Abraham Maslow. As we all know that Abraham Maslow is the need of hierarchical needs. And as per the Carl Rogers Pearson's person to grow, the environment that provides with them, it has to provide genuineness. That means there should be openness and self-disclosure, and there should be acceptance of the unconditional positive regards and empathy, being listened. What most of the students expect, they has to be listened to understand. First, what feeling that understanding has to be taken place. So this is my area where I was working on that. Rogers believed that every person could achieve their goals. There is no person can stay behind. Every person can achieve their goals, wishes, and desires in life. But all this happens only when rather they do the self-actualization takes place. So, yes, ma'am, please. Can I go? Can I proceed?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please. Sure.
Self-actualization takes place. So actually, what is the meaning here saying about self? Here, it's the complete realization of one potential and the full development of one abilities and appreciation for the life. This must be the concept at the top of the hierarchical needs. We are trying to fulfill all the first 4 or 5 needs, and we are not coming to the top of the needs. So Rogers' idea is that self-actualization should be the hierarchy of the needs. It has to be reached only their higher order thinking skills has been enabled. As Geeta ma'am, continuous skills has to be encouraged. So my idea is that when you apply this Carl Rogers Pearson approach, that surely will help the learners to go for the next higher order thinking skills, which is the essential of the need of this day. So what is the basic principles of Pearson-centered approaches? Treat the people with dignity, compassion, and respect. No need to say that you know this, you know this. All the 5 fingers are not same. So everyone is unique and they have the higher intelligence. We can say they have a different intelligence, multiple intelligence with them. Only we have to bring them out. So we have to treat the people with dignity, compassion, and respect. So provide the coordinated care, support, and treatment where they needs. There we should give a care, and we have to provide the support, and we have to provide the treatment. There is no right and wrong. It's according to the level of the personality as well as the person. So their needs, they offer personal care, support, and treatment, and enable the service user to recognize and develop their strength. So as a teacher, we have to give a support to them and make them to aware about their strengths and abilities so they can live in the independent and fulfilling life. Once again, that PPT is not. So what is the need of innovative practices for promoting the learner-centered education is presently in this COVID situation, there are many students who has a feeling of mental health, mental illness. So what they're exhibiting is what will be their future, whether they will get the job or not, whether they were comparing the life with the earlier and how it is going to be a future. So the only solution to market job, market labor service, we have to provide confidence to them. So to provide the confidence to them, we have to make them to level the higher order thinking skills and make them to apply in the realistic life. Maybe said from March 2020, from earlier also we are working on that, but now it becomes a higher comparing with the earlier. So establishing a positive relationship to honor the students' ideas and opinions, facilitate the higher order thinking, and address the students' individual needs as beliefs. So I have worked on this methods in our university among the higher education students, and we found that these methods are helpful for the students to promote their hierarchy thing. I have listed all the methods. I will briefly discuss one by one. Blended learning, as we all know that blended learning allows the teacher to use online as well as the offline, and block-based instruction. Now it is highly popular among the students, and cognitive apprehension. This method is highly helpful on the cognitive as well as metacognitive. Yesterday, my researcher was presenting of the metacognitive skills clearly to this section. So today I was not moving on that, but it gives a more experience to expose on the cognitive and metacognitive skills and process. Finally, the collaborating skills. Collaborating skills helps the both the teachers as well as students to learn not in a circle. It's move beyond the circle, and it's like a crossovering the teaching and learning that helps the students to think over the line. And discovery learning is highly helpful. And e-learning, this is a technology-based e-learning. E-learning resources helps. Most of the time, we comparing with earlier 10 years, now if you ask the students, they use more technologies to access the resources, where it starts, where it ends, everything is now. So e-learning and experience, we can say natural consequences, mistakes, as well as the success can be analyzed by the learners using the experiential learning. As I pointed out in the beginning itself, there is no right or wrong in learning. Learning takes place. What we are applying for changing our behavior, that is highly helpful in the experiential learning. Field trips and crossways and puzzles, got games, poster presentations, individual presentation, synaptics, role plays, and case studies. So to conclude my paper, all the innovative methods, techniques, strategies, and media in teaching learners process should be adopted by the competent teachers who will have the capability for effective implementation. A good and effective education system would involve all these different types of methods, techniques, and ways of assessment to guide the learners, teacher-centered higher education. With this, I come to the conclusion of my part. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was extremely insightful and enlightening indeed. And I would request our chairperson, Dr. Mrs. Savita Rawat, to kindly proceed with the discussion.
Okay. Ma'am, I had a question for you. You said you are working with working on this theory, and you are also working with students in the university level, at university level. But your presentation is not a data-based. Why it is so, ma'am? If you are working with them, Why you not presented in on database? Your presentation is not database.
Ma'am,
It's
actually,
like
we
an yeah. If you are working with them, if you reviewed the literature, then it's okay. It may be in article form,
that
but
I will
if you
get
are
from
working
the
with them, you
knowledge
may
from all your
present.
teachers.
Yeah. This is my question to you. Uh,
This data.
yeah, actually, it's a person-oriented therapy, actually, which is now called
Ah,
approach. In later
approach. Yes,
on,
ma'am.
it's called approach, but as
Yeah,
it was a person-oriented therapy.
yeah.
So you must focus on that also. But it would be very good and convenient for all of us if it would be data-based. Please
Sure, ma'am.
mind it in future. If you present like this, you must present
In the
with
next
data.
CIM
That will be
conference, I
more
will present
authentic.
it, madam.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Next,
Thank
Nivedita,
you.
please.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Dr. Padmavati. And I am in awe of the topic which says that treat people with dignity and respect the differences, and highlighting the serious crisis that we face as humans that has been a threat to learning indeed, and any form of learning for that matter. Thank you, ma'am. Now, our next paper presenter is Dr. Meenakshi Chaturvedi, who will be presenting on the topic Blended Learning Approach, Face of Today's Educational Setup.
Good afternoon, one and all.
Good afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon, respected Savita Rawat ma'am and my dear friends. Uh, can you all please see my presentation? Is it
Sure,
visible?
ma'am, sure. Sure, it's
Yes.
perfect.
Okay, thank you. So here my topic is on blended learning approach, face of today's educational setup. To quote with, I would like to start Carpe Diem, founder of Rick Oxton, to when he said, when he once said, blended learning has to blend something, and in my mind, it blends the best of what a teacher brings to the table and the best of what technology brings to the table together. Yes, it is a beautiful amalgamation of both physical classroom and with the digital resources. And it is a well planned combination of meaningful activities in both the modes, focusing on learning outcomes and learner centered instructional environment. Now, what is blended learning approach? It is an instructional methodology where students still attend brick and mortar schools, like face-to-face teaching is there, and it is combined with the computer-mediated activities. So, a student, so a teacher is able to make a conducive environment for learning, where the learning is student-centric. As our new education policy also states that there should be holistic development of child. So in that path, it is our responsibility to cater to the dreams and aspirations of a child. This technique encourages the students to take up more thought-provoking questions, to discover themselves, and have first-hand experience through PBL, that is project-based learning. It helps the students to explore their hidden potentials and surge ahead to fulfillment, unfazed by the fear of anything. Here we can say, here we can see that a concept was already dealt in the class and the students already know about the spatial arrangement of the shapes and everything. And now they are pondering their thoughts and they are putting a hand-on experience and they are getting much more than what was taught in the class. Their minds are working on this project and so they are gaining a beautiful experience that would enrich their lives in long run. Now, if we see the traditional classroom that was long time before, the teacher was merely uh, he was merely there to discover, to demonstrate the lecture, and the learners were also passive learners. But in the flipped classroom, we can see that is in the blended mode of learning is applied here. The classroom is mainly, it is created like a fun zone, and the students are all also actively engaged in the classroom activities, and even the teacher is also enjoying his teaching. So teacher is basically transformed herself into mentor, a guide, a coach, a friend, a philosopher. Moving forward, we will see the important features of blended learning. We see that the students are actively engaged in this mode of learning, and it enhances the teacher and student interaction as well. The students also take the responsibility for their learning, and time management and flexibility are two beneficial things that come as a byproduct of this learning technique. Improved student learning outcomes, and they get enriched learning environment where continuous learning is accompanied with experiential learning. Here in the first picture, we can see that a teacher is actively involved with the students. He is discussing some concept, and the students are also enjoying teacher presence. It is not that teacher is something else, and he has come from some different planet. He cannot say something, or so the whole scenario has been changed. Here, the students are actively engaging in a group activity, and they all are sharing their viewpoints, they are exchanging their ideas, and they are getting more insight into the subject matter. Moving forward, there are certain learning models. We can say here it is face-to-face driver, where the teacher drives the instruction and augments with the digital tools and make a conducive environment of learning. Rotation, the students cycle through online study, and face-to-face classroom activities are held side by side. In the flex model, most curriculum is delivered by digital platform, and teachers are available for face-to-face consultations. Lab is also same as flex, but it is in a consistent physical location. More physical learning is basically happens in lab models. Self-blend, here the student himself choose to augment their traditional learning with online coursework. And the online driver, students complete an entire course through an online platform. It is very much needed in this present era, in this present scenario when the pandemic has hit our life. So the online classrooms and online teaching is very much essential, and this is a need of our. Here we can see a group of certain students. They are being rotated in different stations, station 1, 2, 3, and 4. In first station, the traditional classroom is being going on. Some concept is being held. In the station 2, some group activities are going on. In station 3, some online activities are going on, and students are getting benefit of digital resources. And in station 4, collaborating projects are going on, and students are having some hand-on experience of different concepts that was previously dealt in the class. So what is the strategy for designing a BL class? It is a well-organized learning management system. Well-organized learning management system is very much needed because it is, we can see it is a learning management system that is easily navigable, and what we can say that student portfolios are made on this, and students are given the logins where student login into that, and they are unique portal is assigned to every student, having details like curriculum update, the circulars, communication, assignment, the resource materials, video clip tutorials, etc. So we can say that it is basically the exact replica of our in-person classroom. Next is the flipping the classroom. It means the students receives a majority of direct instruction outside the classroom via pre-recorded tutorials, video content, articles, worksheets, and resource
Um,
materials.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I am so sorry to interrupt you yet again. We are running short of time. So if you could just sum up your presentation.
Sure. Please
Thank
give
you.
me 2 more minutes.
Focus on
So,
findings only, beta. Meenakshi,
okay. Yes,
focus
yes,
on
ma'am.
findings. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. So these are the strategies: well-organized learning management system, flipping the classroom, making interactive tools, lesson design, teaching technical skills. Here we can see that the making interactive tools, it gives an experience of equitable learning. We can see a student is remotely placed, but he is doing exactly the same as what students are doing on their devices in class. This we have already dealt with the art of teaching, integrated learning system, and foundations for learning. This is the blended learning classroom. The online mode means accessing links, performing online virtual sessions, quiz, and so on. And the face-to-face mode means collaborating with, co-creating new knowledge, face-to-face training, etc. Now, role of teacher. My blended learning shifts the role of teacher from knowledge provider to coach and mentor. So it provides an appropriate balance between online instruction, and it gives the human elements also. Encouragement, compassion, guidance, and caring is provided to the students. And as we always say that the role of as a teacher is teacher plays a role of facilitator. Yes, it is enhanced in the blended mode of learning. Role of learner. Role of learner is that he is more interested, more focused, and excited about the subject that they are studying. It inculcates a growth mindset, and he is ready to accept the new challenges, and he is ready to create new ideas and explore and research and become self-reliant. Benefits we have already dealt that it helps the personalization key factor, it promotes independence and increases the creativity. So concluding myself, I would say the education has proven that the advantages that accrue as outcomes of participating in blended learning is numerous. It experiences that conducive to cognitive and presentation skills. As we all know, the present time is tough, it is mercurial, but it is helping us to look within ourselves. So we have to devise methods that channelize our energy to creative use and unveil untapped potentials. Finally, last words, Mike. If we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. That it was said by John Dewey. Yes, by in modern classroom, by collaborating physical content with digital resources, we have created an environment where the students are actively involved in constructing content and new ideas. They use active learning approaches such as project-based learning and design-based learning, where students are engaged in real, relevant, and purposeful activities. Thus, technology allows students to interact with their learning content, and it provides different ways to generate, examine, analyze, and apply data in real life. So this way, I can see that the blended learning is more suitable in present day setup, and it is the need of the hour.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Meenakshi. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you
Nice
so much,
presentation.
ma'am. It was rather very insightful, I must say. And starting with a quote from Rick Ogston, already paved way for an exquisite presentation, I must say. It was extremely thought-provoking, and contemporary teaching methods of teaching, and yet incorporating traditional teaching methods is extremely crucial. And I must say, to present this topic with intriguing slides was perhaps amazing. Now, I would like to invite our chairperson to kindly please
Thank you,
proceed with the
Nivedita.
discussion.
Thank you, Nivedita. There's no question in chat box. Nobody is asking questions. Why?
Ma'am, I'm sorry
Okay.
to interrupt, and but I do myself have a question. I was,
Oh, yes,
yes,
can ask. Sure.
um, it as creative as the online mode is, what are your thoughts on the overworking teachers are facing? You know,
Yes,
the
teachers are overloaded. I must say that
yes.
they have to go far beyond what they were doing previously. Like they were so the use of digital media and the digital resources was not as much as in today's time. So they have to work on their digital resource learning, and they have to like they have to become tech savvy. Like
Yes, exactly.
I heard Professor Sharad also in the morning that she was influencing, she was encouraging that the teacher should be tech savvy and handle these equipments. So yes, this is the need of the hour, and the pandemic is going on to be here for I don't know from for how many days. So
Yes,
it
yes.
has to become a part and parcel of our life.
Okay,
Yeah, it
that's
was.
good.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Any other question?
Um, there are none, ma'am, as of now in the chat box.
Okay, proceed now.
Okay. Moving
Thank you
ahead,
so much,
we
ma'am.
have most welcome, ma'am. Moving ahead, we have Dr. Meenakshi, Malvika Joshi, Dr. Malvika Joshi, and she will be presenting on the topic Student Talking Time Optimizes Students' Abilities at Multidimensional Level as compared to Teacher Talking Time. Ma'am, please,
Good afternoon,
platform is yours.
everybody. So, my topic of discussion today is the student talking time optimizes a student's ability at the multidimensional level as compared to the teacher talking time. If I talk about two domains, that is, one is the teacher talking time, that is when a teacher speak in a class in a form of lecture or a discussion, and a student talking time would be referred as the amount of student talk in a class in a form of a social drama or a psychodrama or a role play or any classroom presentation. Whereas teaching talking time is teacher centric, as the words clearly stated it out. Similarly, student talking time is student centric. Teacher talking time, the student role is more on a passive state as compared to the student talking time, where in student talking time teacher's role becomes a passive state. Me focusing my presentation was promoting student talking time over teaching talking time because it affects the child in developing towards a more optimal development. If we see into account the learning theorists, whether it's Pavlov, Bandura, or Piaget, they've all stated in creating an ambience for the child so that he could grow in a better way. Looking at the Vygotsky zone of development, social developmental theory, where he talks about zone of proximal development, where he says that teachers should act as a facilitator, as a scapegoater, where the child could grow, analyze their own independence, problem solving method, ownership to solve problem, construct their own knowledge, and learn on basis of the goals for themselves. So every child has his own set of goals to learn why they are learning. Some are learning to have a better career, some are learning to get married, maybe some are learning to have a knowledge, or some are learning to research upon. So depending on the child's perspective, the learning should be facilitating in that same manner. When the objective itself is very different, then how can we give a standard procedure of learning to everybody? Coming to the importance, how it affects, first aspect would be attention and memory skill. Keeping in mind today's Gen Z have a very poor attention span. So it becomes even more important for us as a teacher to facilitate the child in growing the way they want it, creating an ambience for them to talk as much as possible, which will help them to have a better emotional intelligence, which is now a common phenomenon of talking terms, where we talk about IQ is not simply enough for the child. We need to have an emotional intelligence as well. Emotional intelligence will only be growing and promoting in a manner when we are providing the child to speak. So here is a task, rather than me saying why I think that student talking time should be moved, let's just do an experiment with us. So here you could see a slide where there are two pictures which look quite identical to each other, but they are yet not identical. So could anyone from this listener pointed out any two differences? There are many, but at least two.
Allow me to spot the
Okay.
differences, ma'am.
Yeah.
I see the red and the blue book,
Okay.
and then I see the wine on the table. It's
Yeah.
white wine for one, and it's the red wine for the other.
correctly stated. So here what I did is I acted like a facilitator and you acted like a student here where you express your viewpoints. So here what happened, the child becomes active. So if any of the audience people were sleeping, they would have muted themselves, they would have shown to the screen what is happening. So this is how you can grasp the child's attention back to the audience. Sorry? Okay, moving to the next slide that says effective communication. Because in every career orientation purpose or anything that you do in life, communication become very effective because communication is the key to everything, whether you want to be a good listener, whether you want to have a command over a language, whether you should be able to explain yourself well to the environment, whether you are able to do a research, whether you're able to do a coding or anything that you want to do in life. Effective communication is the key to all. So providing a child an ambience where the child could speak his own point, his own viewpoint, and enhancing his own skill become an important skill to adapt at the age, and also the education system should be able to provide them with that. Coming to the next is skill would be critical thinking. Critical thinking is another important domain of development when we talk about an optimal development, where Piaget has actually stated out that through assimilation and accommodation, these two process, we are able to move towards a higher mental ability, higher mental order thinking, and having more towards a formal thinking, which is more constructive in nature, which also help us to think beyond the text, things beyond the information, keeping a note of a theory which says a phenyl effect. Every generation is higher in IQ than the other generation. So if a teacher is the one who is talking all the time, we are talking about her IQ level. She's been able to generate her knowledge, her experience, her IQ. Where's the child's IQ here? So keeping in mind that every generation is multiplying with their IQ, so let's get to know them first and then facilitate them with their learning capacity. So it also helps in increasing the communication, collaborative skills, observing, exploring the clue, examining the clue, exploring the possibility, generating new ideas, and thinking creativity. Let's try our thinking capacity here. So keeping in mind the Supreme Court hearing that happens 2 days back, where the girls have been allowed to give an NDA paper now. So what's your viewpoint? I need any two speaker who could give me their perspective on the following topic, that is homosexuality in military.
Do we have anyone? Kindly, please.
So I'm Rachna Joshi, and I think this is women in combat needs to be done with a very informed kind of a. I think it needs an informed kind of a backup, knowledge. I mean, we can't just put women there. I mean, that's what my perspective is. But I don't think we also need to not get them there. So I think it needs a little more of deliberation. That was what I think it's like too soon or it's just come out like that, but I think it needs more deliberation.
Any more perspective we have? Moving to the next slide. This is okay. Is someone speaking?
No.
Okay. Moving to the next slide. The decision-making skill is also an important domain of our development, where we learn how to make decisions based on our prior education, our learning, knowledge, and experience. So it helps us to think creatively, critically, analytically, and dialectic thinking is enhanced.
Thank you.
Collaborative learning, it talks about higher level thinking, oral communication, self-management, retention, reflection, and leadership. Coming to the meta skills, I think everybody has spoke a lot about it. I would rush to the slide by not explaining in detail. Coming to the last aspect, that would be self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a very important domain where we need to inculcate and understand what our capabilities are, what our abilities states us, what our potential are, and so that we could evaluate ourselves where we are going to be from in longer run. So for the students to understand what their self-efficacy is, what their ability is, we need to create them an ambience to speak up and understand their self and know themselves better in terms of performance, in terms of learning, in terms of emotional level, or that can help us to perform better in a longer way. So, in other words, I could say that the student talking terms helps in facilitating a child to develop into a better mental capacity and towards an optimal developmental level.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was extremely engaging presentation, and indeed, thinking out of the box has always helped people. And I loved your idea that the shift from teacher talk time to student talk time, and it needs to be incorporated, truly. And I would like to invite Professor Savita Rawat to proceed with the further discussions.
Yeah, nice presentation, Malvika.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. If we reduce teacher talk time and we enhance the student talk time, you think the role of teacher lessens?
No.
No.
There
It
has never been.
increases so many times.
Yeah, the teacher is acting as a facilitator. She is just creating an
Yes.
environment for the child to grow.
Yeah, but his or her role becomes 2 or 3 times behind the curtain.
Yeah.
She has to plan. She has to make the environment to practice it. So it needs a great expertise to arrange behind the curtain. You suggest any kind of training or something for those teachers?
For teachers, they're going to
You talked about the student, what he will get after increasing or enhancing student time. Then what will be on the part of teacher? Can you suggest something?
Okay, I can just, because you come up with this very interesting questions, let's just do a role reversal. Whomsoever is facilitating the teachers to train them, to train the students, let them brainstorm. Let them come up with a framework, which is keeping in mind the modern as well as the traditional teaching method. Because the objective remains the same, that is educating the children, making them learn,
Yes.
attaining to their holistic development. So we just creating them. So if a group of teachers sit together and formulate, keeping in mind the students coming from which background, which learning outcome they want, what is their language, and what is their social economic status, and how they want to grow, and come based on their domains and demographic profile, we can create a learning outcome for them.
Good. Can you suggest a name of a method in which the students are more active and students are behind the curtain? Any method, any. There are so many.
Role play can be one, group discussion can be another one, paper presentation can be another one.
Have you heard project-based learning?
Yeah.
Which is totally of students.
Yes.
And teacher is always in planning part. That is a true example. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Malvika.
Thank you.
Nivedita, please.
Our next presenter is Dr. Seema Bhushan, who will be presenting on orchestrating multiple intelligences, paving a way to help exceptional students or slow learners.
So, namaskar to all our distinguished guests, esteemed participants on this virtual global platform. What can be a better example than this? The platform on which we are today is itself defining multiculturalism. So once again, I welcome all the respectable guests to the second day of the international conference. So let us begin the journey from homogeneity to multiculturalism. So there was a time when the system of Gurukul was prevalent, which was based on traditional and homogeneity system of education. And so, as madrasas, pathshalas in India. Such cases were found in the other parts of the world either. The core of education system could be seen from the British era in India. National education policy were also set up, but all were homogeneous based in the colonial period. With the globalization, the transformation begins, and thus we find change in the education system in the contemporary world. It has a deep historical root in African American ethnic studies movement that emerged in the late 19th and the early 20th century. Yes, multicultural education emerged during the civil rights movement of 1960s and 1970s. It grew out of the demands of the ethnic groups for inclusion in the curricula of schools, colleges, and universities. So that was the historical glimpses. But what is multiculturalism? So basically, it is a policy that emphasizes the unique characteristic of different cultures, especially as they relate one another in receiving nations, bridges chasm of ignorance and arrogance. So next, what should be the goal of multicultural classroom? So it is to assist children with recognizing differences as well as similarities among all people, to encourage cooperative social skills as children learn to accept differences and similarities among people. They can work and get along with others better. So related to this, some curriculum based on ethnocultural, that is, curriculum should be designed to develop the learners for their origin by educating them to consider the needs of the society. It clarifies how diversity interlaces with educational processes and content. So it should be mapped with experimental learning. So in the present day of information bombardment, the data has become the new fuel. So we as an educator have to be future fit as we are enabling the learners with a previous generation skill set, which in due course will become redundant or will be taken over by artificial intelligence. So as per example, for instance, data scientists would be required more than any other existing professions. Hence, as educator, we have to be more forthcoming in assimilating such new and advanced stream in the curriculum. So thereafter, how to assess the learners? It's a common phenomena. But more areas need to be evaluated. The parameter of assessment cannot be measured in the academic performances of the child. There are many learners who are smarter in other activities rather than academic performances. So it should be holistic in nature, but not discriminatory if we talk about the multicultural classroom. So assessment should be done not to point out the errors, but to correct the errors of the learners. It should be for the learners, not of the learners. Even according to NEP, integrated learning should be encouraged. So multidisciplinary approaches has to be considered to enhance the learner. Now, to dealing with all these conditions, the challenges educators face in the last few decades have also changed on par with the changes in the education system. So here is a look at few challenges faced by the teachers in today's world. Due to booming technology, big generation gap occurred between teachers and the learners. So in today's world, learners are smarter than the teachers. So suddenly, when the teachers started using the virtual platform for imparting education, they faced many difficulties in handling the online platform. But we are facing other challenges even. If we compare the education system of India between urban and rural areas, we find that approximately 72% receive an education in the urban areas and approximately 28% received in rural areas. Whereas if we see towards the population of rural area, we find the population of rural area is more than the population of the urban area. So this is a small statistics I have presented where the students, they have enrolled themselves in the urban area as well as in the rural area. So one hand, we talk about cross-culturalism at the global level. On the other hand, we lack all kinds of resources. More likely, shortage of experienced and qualified teachers at the grassroots level. So next is teaching learning process in alignment with multi-ethnic classroom management. Today, technology has given teachers across the world number of tools to enhance teaching method. We as an educator, we are supposed to use right use of technology, plan the strategy well in advance, use creative approaches such as literature, language, arts, even the food, varieties of food can be presented, culture in a group. Then we can have regular discussions over current events and news updates. We can cultivate awareness, empathy, fairness through conversations and example. And above all, visual tools would be more effective rather than audio. So lastly, educators of the 21st century, they are undoubtedly dealing with new challenges. But it is to be noted that they are now more accountable for a student's overall development, laying the foundation for lifelong progress. Yes, the changes could be seen that we have switched from traditional to technical, from homogeneity to multiculturalism, and from Gurukul to Google. So we may have different religions, different languages, different colored skin, but we all belong to one human race. It was said by Kofi Annan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed an eye-opening presentation, and including history and perhaps the civil rights movement. And just excuse me if I'm wrong with the numbers. It was from 1954 to 68 in the United States of America. Integrated learning is challenging, yet extremely crucial. And I would like to finish with what you said is, as Jim Brown said, if you really want to do something, you will find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. So we don't have to find an excuse as educationists. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
I may now request Professor Savita Rawat to kindly proceed with the discussions.
Yes, I saw a raised hand of Seema Pundir. Please, you may ask question. Seema Pundir, please. Unmute yourself, ma'am. Seema Pundir, ma'am. Seema Pundir, ma'am. You have raised hand. No, okay. Anybody else? If anybody wants to ask, please.
Now, one thing I would like to ask, like since I am a teacher in the primary school, and there, the new system, now all of a sudden what happened in the pandemic, we were not acquainted with this platform, the technical platform. And all of a sudden it came to us that we have to use. So we have taken lots of trouble while taking the...
Same happened with all. So you are not alone.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am, you are right.
And
but
you are
that being an educator,
too young
we have to update ourselves. So this actually pandemic has taught us that we have to update ourselves with the time.
Yeah.
So this is the necessity. This has become the necessity for the society, and especially the educators, especially the teachers.
Teacher is an ever student. We have to learn always.
Like in the last,
we can't complain. We can't say,
like the paper presentation, one of ma'am said that even there's a facilitator.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Answer my question, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. How different cultures within a society should be given importance, should be given respect. It's very true. Yes. But as we move towards multiculturalism, the political, social, religious, all these hindrances are obstacle in the path of multiculturalism. How you will address these as a teacher?
So being a teacher, being a diverse population is there with us. So being a teacher, we have to accommodate them. We have already accommodated them, but we have to start with the collaborative ideas that we will enhance learning in them by setting a few examples, like some group activities can be done. Then even the exchange of the stories, even the exchange of the cultures can be done in the class, so that the learners, they will come across all the learners in the class, and they will try and understand the emotions and empathy, everything in the class with their participants, or with their batchmates.
Okay. Yes. If you were present in last session, uh, panelist Dr. Geeta Rai, if you heard her, the answer was lies there. She explained very well how to respect culture, how to give them importance, how to inculcate culture in our students. Thank you, Remy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nivedita, you can
Thank you,
proceed for
ma'am.
next.
Okay, ma'am. Now, our next presenter is Dr.
Uh,
Sangeeta R. Bihare. Ma'am,
I think,
Professor.
Seema Bhushan ma'am is
yes,
also
you
there.
have to speak, ma'am.
No, actually, we were short of time, so sure, I'll introduce you, ma'am. Now, next we have Dr. Seema Bhushan. She will be presenting on orchestrating multiple intelligences, paving a way to help exceptional students, slow learners. Ma'am, the platform is yours, please.
Thank you. Am I audible now?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to one and all present. I, Dr. Seema Bhushan, feel honored to be part of this two-day international conference on contemporary teaching pedagogy in pluralistic society. I am obligated to Department of Teacher Education, DAV PG College, Dehradun, to provide me this opportunity to be amongst the plethora of intellectuals. 10 minutes is, in fact, 7 minutes is not enough for me, but still I'll try to compress and see how well I can present my topic. In words of Albert Einstein, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. And if we ask an elephant, a monkey, a dog to take the same exam, the results will vary. And in fact, in some cases, it will be devastating. I begin with my topic, multiple intelligence theory. It is a theory by an American psychologist. He had introduced this in 1983, and this is specifically for students, teachers, and in a broader sense, education. He believed that the conventional concept of intelligence was too narrow and restrictive, and that measures of IQ often missed out on other intelligences that an individual may possess. All people are not born with all intelligences. Multiple intelligences may range from the use of words, numbers, pictures, music, to the importance of social interaction, introspection, physical movement, and being in tune with nature. Now coming to learning disability, how multiple intelligence can pave a way for exceptional students, or in the common language we call students with learning disability. Learning disabilities vary from person to person. One person with a specific learning disability may not have the same kind of learning problem as another person with learning disability. There's a range of learning disabilities. We will not ponder on all. I'll just name some: dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, autism, which is an extreme. So how can we help these children by having knowledge of multiple intelligence theory? This is what I'm trying to present today. One person may have trouble with reading, writing. Another person may have problem with understanding math. Some may have trouble in each of these areas, as well as with understanding what people are. So it is not only specifically going to define about mathematical problem or linguistic problem. It talks about social also. It talks about interpersonal also, intrapersonal also. And these people, these children, these students with learning disability need to be brought into the mainstream. We have to, it is a taboo in the society. Sadly, I'm a mother of one, my son is also a child with learning disability. So no one can emotionally feel what I have gone through. because the society, the education system, the administration, the examination pattern, we are trying to include changes, but yes, there's a long way to go. Students with learning disabilities may suffer from emotional problems, depression, low self-esteem, and this may cause withdrawal from social attention. These same students may turn to drugs or alcohol for relief from feeling of low self-worth. As many as, this is a US data I have quoted, 35% of the students with such problems are dropouts of high school in USA. Teenagers with learning disability are more likely to think or attempt suicide than other young people of their age. Quickly coming to the 9 type of intelligences, once we as teachers are aware, as educationalists, we can diagnose these. I think a major chunk of the job is done. If we know what intelligence category the child falls, we will be able to provide him education, come down to his level at that particular area, and help him from the emotional crisis he or she is going, from the social, taboo which he is facing, the quote which he is, there's something wrong in your brain, you're not normal, all these words, we will be able to help him. Naturalist, musical, logical, existential, interpersonal, bodily kinesthetic, linguistic, intrapersonal, and spatial. These are the 9 types of intelligences Howard Gardner has defined. And these are to be dealt in a different manner. There can be possibility that a child may have one or more than one of these also. But definitely each one will have some of these. Now, if, as my second slide was saying, if we are asking an elephant to try climb the tree, he will never score as much as a monkey. So if we know the area where we can help or cater to the requirement of the student, we will definitely be doing a great job, not only as an educationalist, but a great service to humanity as well. Let me quickly tell what are the ways in which we can teach these kind of students with these specific intelligences. One, with linguistic, has to be taught verbally, or he's very good with words, very good with language. In the coming slides, I'll be defining more about these. Logically, we can cater to the mathematical intelligence. The spatial child can be catered with visuals, or can be given the liberty to express himself visually. Bodily kinesthetic should be asked to express through gestures. Musical intelligence can be wonderfully tackled when the child has been given the liberty to be rhythmic. For example, if you have to teach tables, you can tell the student who has this musical intelligence to learn through music those tables, and he will wonderfully surprise you with his innate quality. Interpersonal, intrapersonal, natural. How we have to deal them in the coming slides, I will try to briefly define it. Linguistic intelligence. These people are sensitive towards spoken and written language. They have the ability to learn language.
So sorry.
Someone?
Yes, ma'am. It's me, Nivedita.
Yes,
and we're just running short of time. So
yes, ma'am. I will finish well in time. I'll finish well in time. Just another 2 minutes, ma'am. So linguistic intelligence deals with language. They are very, very effectively able to express themselves logically, mathematical, numbers. They are reasoning smarts. We have examples: Bill Gates, Albert Einstein. Spatial intelligence deals with picture smart. They are the ones who can recognize, manipulate with pictures, patterns, spaces. Bodily kinesthetic students are very good at expressions. We have examples: Michael Jordan. Musical intelligence, these students are very, very smart with their compositions, their performances. They appreciate the musical patterns. Interpersonal intelligence, these are people smart. They know the intentions, motives, and they have what people desire for them. They have the capacity to understand that. Intrapersonal, they are self-smart. They have an effective working model of oneself. Example, Aristotle. Naturalist intelligence, they are very, very happy when they are close to nature. They can be very happy with species, flora, fauna, environment. Now, how can we include multiple intelligence with learning disability? Experiential learning is one fine introduction by CBSE, and this can help us when we understand multiple intelligence theory. We can make the teaching learning process more effective, and it will be a success. And we as teachers, educators, need to know how we can transfer ideas to our students. Thank you. Questions, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The topic is self, where you mentioned, I must say, exceptional students, slow learners. It was extremely intriguing. And Howard Gardner, the developmental psychologist, has worked with the intelligence theory and quoting such exemplary examples by Albert Einstein, who himself is considered as an educationist before he is considered as a mathematician. I am in awe. Now I would invite our
Yes.
chairperson, Professor Savita Rawat.
Nivedita, we
Yes.
have two psychologists on our screen, Dr. Reena Onial Tiwari and Dr. Pragati Bartwal. Please, you may ask questions now.
Sure. I'll see if we have anything in the
Yes.
chat box. Or
Both
I'll-
are, yes,
sure.
from Pragati Bartwal, please. But one thing I want to mention, ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
it was your presentation was not from mind, not from speech, but it was heart to heart presentation.
Thank you so much.
It touched our heart because you are the mother of a child who is facing such difficulty. So I felt that.
Thank you so
Through
much.
your presentation, I felt that feeling, ma'am. Really, it touched my heart.
Thank you
And
so
I
much.
felt how much involvement of a parent is necessary. And a parent like you, who is so much involved, who knows everything about these children. Every parent of these child should be like you, ma'am. I want to comment like this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Any questions?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Pragati Bartwal.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon,
I
ma'am.
mentioned that I'm a psychologist. I'm teaching psychology here. So it was a very beautiful presentation, and the way you talked about different kind of intelligence and how we need to cater our teaching methods to different styles of learning. So one question to you, ma'am, as a teacher, when we go to the classroom, how do we identify a student's learning style? Like it is a very cumbersome
Yes, ma'am.
process, and it's not an easy task to do. So
Yes.
can you give some suggestions? on that?
Yes, ma'am. After 2 minutes. I started my career as a primary teacher, then went on to TGT, then PGT, then head of the department, and now I'm the principal of an institution. So I have gone through all the stages. And this is a wonderful question, ma'am. And I think my answer is definitely going to help many educationalists who had never ever thought about it, that how can we do this? First of all, technically, there are multiple intelligence tools available. Let us forget about that. Let us come to the ground level, that how can we identify? Go to the class, give a topic, and leave the children to their liberty, that express yourself. You will get your results, ma'am. You, for example, I had made in my paper presentation, I have presented a lesson plan also on the same, ma'am. Just take students outside in the ground. It is in a layman language, ma'am. No technicalities added to it. Just coming direct from the heart. Take the students to the ground, show them the tree, and leave them free. Express whatever you feel like about tree. The one who with the linguistic intelligence will write about it, will write a poem, will write an article, or one with the artistic will draw, one with mathematical will write the length, breadth, circumference. You leave them. Intrapersonal one will be standing and explaining to the other one like, you know what, this tree, the same tree I have in my gaon also. That is intrapersonal. Leave the children, ma'am. Be the observer. Don't restrict them. Leave them alone. Say you do whatever you feel like. I'll see what you know about the tree. I'm not going to be judgmental. There you get your result, ma'am, that this child possesses this particular. And ma'am, quickly, just 1 minute, not to take others' time. Just take one. I am an English teacher. English has been my subject throughout. And to understand my son better, I have done my MA in psychology. I have done my post-graduation in counseling, family therapy. I have taken a course in guidance just to understand my son better. So I, as a mother, as a teacher, as a principal, will say, don't restrict students. I took one lesson of English in class 10, and as a challenge, I took it and I sat down and I thought, how will I teach this lesson to my class of 45 students who have all the 9 intelligences? I took all the data related to dates, and that was a table for the mathematical one. I made rhyming words for the linguistic one. I took the interpersonal one. Come out and speak, whoever wants to speak about the best character. We as teachers can do wonders. We have to be passionate about it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for such an insightful suggestion.
Thank you so much.
And we as educator, we think that we can implement such
Yes.
suggestions.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, Nivedita.
Thank you.
Can
Yeah.
proceed.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
have time limit. Yeah.
Yeah, please. Yes, ma'am. Now, I would like to invite our next presenter, Dr. Pragati Barthwal herself, who will be presenting on metacognition and its role in creating active learners. Ma'am, please, platform is yours.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
All right. So, very, very good afternoon to respected Chairperson, Madam, and all the esteemed guests out here. My name is Dr. Pragati Barthwal, and I teach psychology at DAV PG College. And I would be talking about metacognition in creating active learners. So we've been talking a lot about metacognition, but I'm going to talk about it in a different perspective, in trying to see its role in creating active learners. So before we begin, I would like us to ponder on 2 important questions. And the first one is, what is the role of learning? Is the role of learning to learn? Or is it also to know how we learn, why we learn, and how well are we learning? And second thing is, what is the purpose of learning? Is the purpose of learning only to acquire knowledge, or is it also to create knowledge and to critically evaluate the knowledge that we have created? So that takes us to a higher order mental thinking and cognition, and that is metacognition. So what is it? What is metacognition? The word itself comes from the Greek word meta, which means beyond, and cognizance, a Latin word which means cognition or thinking. So metacognition is thinking about thinking, learning how to learn. So this term metacognition got popularized only in 1970s after the seminal work of Flavel. But even before that, way back in 1933, as you can see, Dewey mentioned this phenomena when he said that we learn more through our reflections on our experiences rather than from the experience itself. So what he was talking about was metacognition. Now, the metacognition consists of 2 important components. One is the knowledge of cognition, and the other one is the self-regulation. The knowledge of cognition, it has within itself the knowledge about oneself, the knowledge that we have about ourselves as a learner, our strengths and weaknesses, our learning styles, our learning habits, what has worked for us in past and what has not worked for us. And it also has within it the knowledge about the task. What are the requirement of the task? For example, if we are trying to solve some algebraic problem, the kind of strategies that we are going to be using is not going to be the same as when we are critically evaluating some piece written by Shakespeare in literature. Same way, the third thing within it is the knowledge about strategies. So what strategies to use in a particular task, whether we are going to take notes, whether we are going to read a little and then reflect upon it, or we are going to brainstorm. So different kind of strategies can be used, and the knowledge that we have about those strategies, it constitutes our knowledge about the strategies. Now coming to the self-regulation part, self-regulation is the executive control that we have on our cognitive processing while we are working on some task or trying to learn something. So it is basically dealing with a working memory. So it has the planning where we preview the content that we want to learn, and then we set timelines for ourselves and we set goals that we want to achieve. Then comes the monitoring part, when we monitor our thought process, how we are going about it, are we hitting some roadblocks, how to troubleshoot, and how to sustain our attention on the work. And then is the controlling part, where we tend to actively try to control our cognitive processing. We try to restructure our environment by seeking out places which are quiet and which are much more conducive to the learning. And we can seek help from others if we hit some roadblocks and we are not moving ahead in our learning. We can make use of certain strategies like visualization, imagery, and all. And lastly is the evaluation part, which is when we self-assess our performance, how well we've been performing as a learner, whether we've been able to reach our goals, how well we reached our goals, do we need some adaptations, or what are the takeaways, can we take this learning from here to some other situations. So all that is part of evaluation. Then we can see on this slide how effective learners learn. So planning, review, create timelines, troubleshoot problems. These are all metacognitive skills that they use. And this is what sets them apart from the learners who are not so effective. So we can see that this is what makes them effective learners. Now coming to this slide, one important thing about metacognition is to understand how it works, why it works. So metacognition basically creates an awareness about our thinking. We are being conscious about the way we are thinking, the way we are reflecting upon some issue, some problem, and this awareness gives us a sense of, it works on our attention and also gives us control over the way we are proceeding in our thought process. Secondly, it also helps us in creation of goals. We are able to create goals for ourselves that will direct our learning process and will not let us just go off the track. And it also acts as a benchmark against which we can assess our performance, assess our learning objectives. And then it also gives us the best strategy which is suitable for a particular task. And then, of course, metacognition gives us the power to self-assess our learning, whether we've been doing, we have been able to accomplish the goals in a perfect manner or not, or we need some kind of adaptations. Now coming to the most important part of this paper, that is how metacognition promotes active learning. So active learning we can understand as something where the individual is able to actively work on his learning, his or her learning process. They consider themselves as the agent of their own learning, and they are not they don't treat themselves as some passive recipient of information, and they are actively involved in creation of knowledge, and they can choose their own strategies, they can set their own goals, and they can see that what is working for them and what is not working for them. Because what we see that most of our learning that we do is very procedural in nature, that there are rules laid out and there are steps given to us. We have to follow those steps and reach to some conventional solution for that. But most of the time, what happens that these kind of conventional answers to the problems, they do not work, because we need creative solutions.
I'm extremely sorry to interrupt.
This is the most important, then I'm done. And then because of that, it gives us a sense of control and empowerment, which leads us to have a sense of self-efficacy. And when we feel self-efficacious, we can set higher goals. It kinds of whets our appetite for further goals and to set higher goals. And in this way, metacognition empowers the learner to become the agent of his or her own learning. And now that we know the importance of metacognition, and we also know that people differ in their levels of metacognition, so it becomes important for us to train them. How can we do that? By first of all, professionally training the teachers, then explicitly teaching the students how to go about it. Then we can verbalize our own thinking when we are solving a problem, so that they can see for themselves how an expert thinks. And we can use strategies like concept maps and thinking aloud, and we can make use of wrappers, and we can make use of constructive feedback and brainstorming. And that's all. Thank you so much for listening to me, and over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed extremely insightful. Role of learning, why, what, and how, and above all purpose, conscious thinking is there. I'll not take much time, and I'd like to invite Chairperson Dr. Savita Rawat to kindly take over the discussion.
There is no question on in chat box. I just viewed it.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes,
would
it's
it be
good. It's good. But I want to say something for Pragati. It's good to learn thinking about thinking. Thinking for thinking. Very good idea. Metacognition, yes, it's a part of our teaching. It's good. But kind of expertise is needed. Every approach, what is discussed here, it needs a kind of expertise. Otherwise, it will be a ritual, tradition, just to like other methods. It needs a psychologist like you. Every teacher has knowledge of psychology as educational psychology in B.Ed and other training programs, but it's very essential time to time training for the teachers to learn these new methods, new approaches or kind of learning. So thank you, Pragati. If anybody wants to ask question, any question from boardroom?
Ma'am, if there's no question, could we move ahead?
Yes. If no question is there, yes, you can move now.
Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Our next keynote speaker for today is
Keynote?
I'm so sorry. Our next panel presentation would be Atulya Verma and Meena Bhandari presenting on effectiveness of blended learning, exploring pathways to redefining and reconstructing teaching learning processes. Is Mr. Atulya Verma with us? Meanwhile, without taking much time, meanwhile, we have our next presentation by Shruti Pant,
Yeah. Next
who will
one.
be presenting on folklores, a medium for holistic education.
A very good afternoon to all. So I'm starting, just a moment.
Sure, ma'am.
Give your introduction, Shruti, from where you are.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I am from DSP campus, Kumaon University, Nainital. From Department of English, I am a research scholar, ma'am.
Good. Now proceed.
Yes, ma'am. Is my presentation visible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. A very good afternoon, honorable chairpersons, esteemed guests, and my fellow scholars. I feel honored today for getting the opportunity to present my paper titled Folklores, a Medium for Holistic Education. I would like to start my presentation with a quote from Laura Amy Schlitz. Folklore has a moral center to it. Folklore is always, always, always on the side of the underdog. And children have a natural instinct towards justice. They feel indignation at needless cruelty and wistfulness about the acts of mercy and kindness. Since time immemorial, folklores have been the medium through which wisdom and knowledge has been passed from one generation to another. Along with cultural knowledge and wisdom, they reflect significant psychological issues such as child sibling rivalry, child parent relationships, and puberty issues, which play a crucial role in a child's mental well being. Most of the challenges that face our society today, such as poor mental health, crime, and addiction, are all a result of a difficult childhood. Reinforcing a sense of security in classrooms by encouraging students to come up with their own interpretation of various mythological tales and folklores right from their early years can play a huge role in not only developing children's confidence and critical thinking skills, but also in their mental well-being, which would determine the well-being and happiness of an entire society, for children are the society we will become. Despite their immense pedagogical value, folklores remain underutilized. They are either reinterpreted or repressed, and seldom included in the academic curriculum, as a result of which they are slowly dying out. The very feature of folklore is that it is oral. However, most of the folklores today are being rewritten in accordance with the written conventions and not according to the oral conventions, and are being presented as genuine folklores. It has often been observed that folk materials are not trusted due to the general ambivalence regarding the materials of oral traditions. The association of folklore with error has made it difficult for the study of folklore, and the study is generally discouraged and even by the educators. So the paper explores the role of folklore in holistic development of children and suggests some ways in which folklores may be included in school curriculum so as to provide a child with holistic education focusing on their all-round development. Talking about the evolution of folklore studies, it began as a branch of academics very recently in the 19th century with the publication of Jacob Grimm's Children's and Household Tales. After which James George Fraser in 1890 came up with The Golden Bough, a marvelous work that proposed that mankind had progressed from magic through religious belief and to scientific thought. And then in 1846, William John Thomas finally coined the term folklore. One of the major contributors in the field of folklore study was Alan Dundes. He saw folklore as a means which could play an essential role in uniting people. I would like to talk about ethnocentrism because introducing folklores from around the world to children right from their early years in the form of songs, poems, riddles, proverbs, and tales may help children overcome the issue of ethnocentrism, which in some form or other is found in all people on planet Earth. It is the notion that the way we do things is natural and right, whereas the way others do them is strange, perhaps unnatural and wrong. There can be no denying that such notions are the root cause of inequality and intolerance in the world. One of the prime goals of introducing folklores in school and academic curriculum is to enable students to appreciate similarities and interconnectedness found in different versions of folklores across continents. I would like to quote an example. The tale of Cinderella is identified by folklorists as Arrane Thompson tale type 510 in the internationally known index of Indo-European folktales. This tale has hundreds of versions. And imagine a study of all these variants of the same tale and identifying the similarities in them could promote international understanding. As humans evolve, they believe that to be truly civilized is to be folklore-less. Such notions have been contributing to the extinction of folklores by placing education and folklore on opposite sides, when in truth they complement each other. Various well-meaning educators of literature teach Shakespeare and Chaucer as great literature, but consider it unfit to teach regional oral lores in classroom. Both literature and social studies could be taught to students with the help of folkloristic text, with the advantage that students would know of them from their own life and experience. Providing children with one item of folklore and encouraging them to come up with their own interpretations could enable students to see that although there is considerable diversity, there is also considerable similarity, and this would make our children tolerant. I would like to conclude by saying that the various forms of folklores are a great resource for teachers who wish to understand their students well and who wish to teach them effectively about the world and about the human condition. For folklores are a mirror to society, and they are a mirror worth looking into. Teachers who encourage their students to study and analyze their own folklores and also assign them projects to look into and collect the folklores of other cultures are providing their students with an educational experience of immeasurable value. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shruti Pant, for presenting such an intriguing presentation. And
Thank you,
it
ma'am.
clearly reminds us that William John Thoms, the Englishman who had, coined the word folklore, has done indeed blessed us with this term. And I would invite our chairperson, Dr. Savita Rawat. Professor, please continue with the discussion.
Thank you, Nivedita. Shruti Pant,
Yes,
very
ma'am.
well done, beta.
Thank
Very
you
nice.
so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to encourage our research scholars. They are coming up with so nice spread, with nice preparation. It's good. Yeah, indeed. Folklores are very, I think, effectual, very powerful medium of education in early childhood or in early school days. Have you collected some folklores of Uttarakhand?
Yes, ma'am. I am from Kumaon, and my entire PhD research, I have just started with my research, and
How many you have collected now?
Ma'am, I have
till today.
collected. Yeah, so there are folk songs like Shakunakhars that we have, and then there are Mangals in Garhwal. Then there are Hurkiya bowls that were used when the women were sowing paddy, and men used to sing them. Then there are Ritu Rains, or these are the folk songs related to the seasonal cycle. And ma'am, there are tales that we see about, like there are tales about women, how the struggles that they face. And there are so many tales and so many dances, and really they are very much integrated to our life, and we need to support it, ma'am.
It's good, very good work, because they are extending. Na? Our generation is not introduced with all these. We have heard from our mother, our grandmother, and we just knew all about this to that extent only. It's a good topic of research if you are doing this.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
can you sing a folklore for us? Yes, this is
Ma'am,
your
I'm not
task.
that great a singer. I am so sorry.
We don't want to
But I
listen your
can, ma'am.
voice.
No, no, but
Yes,
I can. Yes.
try. Don't, no word shouldn't be in your dictionary.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Just okay. So this is a swalpathai when we do any good work in our Kumauni culture. So there is a event that is known as swalpathai. So this is a song sending invitation. So I'll just sing a small line.
Okay.
सुआ रे सुआ बने खंडी सुआ जा सुआ नगरी में न्यूत दिया तू जा सुआ नगरी में न्यूत दिया
Very good.
ग्वानी पछाणन न्योनी पछाणु के घरी के न्यारी नूत दिया. So it goes like this, then they go to Ayodhya, then they go to
Amazing.
Midnapur, like that.
It's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing, ma'am. Would you?
It's an international event. I want to introduce with my Uttarakhand's folklore to all the audiences. And thank you, Shruti,
Thank you so
for
much.
presenting
Thank you.
such paper.
I would really like to, thank my guide, Dr. Haripriya Pathak. She's the one who encourages me. It's because of her that I am able to do this work. It's all the credit goes to her, ma'am.
Yes.
I am
The whole
very amazing.
platform is
Yeah.
encouraging you. Thank you.
Thank you so
Now
much.
proceed for the next.
Yes, sure. Would before, if you mind, Mrs. Shruti Pant, would you mind answering a question? I'm
Yes.
sorry for
Yes.
being the critical one. I'm so sorry, but I have this thought in mind, and Harris, if you know, Harris states that folklore promotes didacticism, but didactic knowledge means presenting knowledge to the learners, and by presenting, contemplation is hampered. So, what are your thoughts on it? Please guide me through.
Can you please explain to me what do you elaborate? What do you mean by presenting knowledge to the learners? What do you mean by
It's when contemplation, when you offer contemplation, it's you're stimulating the thought process. But by didacticism, as amazing as as it is, the contemplation is hampered. You don't think much. It's just presenting knowledge. It's like F is equal to MA, as
Yeah.
simple as that.
So,
please guide me through.
I understood your question. Thank you so much. It's a very good question. I really believe that it was the primitive mind who, made myths and mythologies. It is our duty to reinterpret it. So
Exactly.
when we are giving children a folklore and when we are asking them to come up with their own interpretation, we are promoting their thought process. We are asking them to think and come up with their interpretation. And that is the
Yes.
whole point of studying folklore. Preservation, yes, we want to preserve it, but we also have to reinterpret it. It is so important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was extremely insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving ahead, we have Atulya Verma and Meena Bhandari, ma'am, for presenting on the topic effectiveness of blended learning, exploring pathways to redefining and reconstructing teaching learning processes. Ma'am, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Nivedita ma'am. Sorry for the previous time. I'm very sorry. Good afternoon to one and all.
No, please don't be sorry.
To the organizers. Good afternoon to one and all. To the organizers, I'm very much thankful who gave me this opportunity to present my paper. Please excuse me for 1 minute. I need to just share my screen. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Is my screen visible?
Not yet,
no,
ma'am.
no,
Not yet, ma'am.
no.
Okay. Okay.
Ma'am, if the presentation doesn't work, no worries. You can continue with your speech and material.
Yes.
Ma'am, is it visible now?
No.
Okay. So may I speak without the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. So my presentation is on effectiveness of blended learning, exploring pathways to redefining and reconstructing teaching learning process. So as we know that there has been a shift from pedagogy to pedagogy. Okay. So the blended teaching has become the predominant teaching model of the future because it incorporates the best of both worlds. That is, there is no advantage or there is no disadvantage of this term. That is the blended learning. We have the advantages in it. Now it goes beyond barriers of time, location, culture, and it has created the opportunities for both the learners and the instructors, that is teachers. Now this blended learning, it endeavors to purposefully and seamlessly integrate online learning and traditional learning. Now it combines the traditional chalk and talk method experiences, experiential learning, that is hands-on learning experiences, objectives, and digital course delivery. It emphasizes on using the best option for each learning objective, and we can say that it aims to find out the right mix for the learners, those who are having the different learning capacity, different learning potential, whether it is offline or online. Now this type of learning is student centric. Now why is it student centric? Because it provides a lot of flexibility to the students in terms of learning, because it facilitates the learners to choose the learning method based on their schedule, where to whichever location they are, they can learn, and to whichever stage they are in, and it suits their individual learning style also. As one presentation was there which showed the different learning styles, we know that individual differences are there, and the learning styles are also dependent upon each and every child. So blended learning caters to the learning style of the individual. Now comes to the role of teacher. If we are talking about blended learning, what is the role of teacher? Earlier, the role of teacher was hitherto of a knowledge imparter, the knowledge disseminator. But now this role is gradually decreasing. Why? Because now the students are accessing knowledge from different sources. They can merely click their phones, tablets, and computers, and now the teacher is more suited to the new role, that is the facilitator of knowledge. Now the teacher facilitates for knowledge construction, and the role is changed. And one more important point, that is technology has become the prime motivator for the students to learn. Now, if we are talking about the changed role of teachers, in the same manner, the role of students have also changed. Now, if the role has changed, we as an instructor, we as teachers and students, we all are facing some kind of challenges. Now, what kind of challenges are there? Like if we talk about ICT, information, communication, and technology, the higher education institutions or educational institutions, they are facing uh, shortage of resources. So blended course doesn't fit easily into the organizational structure. Now if we talk about human resources, we do have the lack of readiness to learn, and on the other hand we have institutional barriers, that is the barriers regarding resources also. Now what in order to overcome this challenge, we may require many players in addition. That is individual faculty members who should be on board, including colleges, departments, support services, and requisite infrastructure. And yes, other challenges faced by the teachers, that is I told you, one of the challenges is the readiness to learn. And as you know that not every faculty member has the knowledge, skill or expertise or the positive attitude to teach a technology based learning course. So the organization has to provide the necessary technical training to the teachers, and the organization has to take care that the faculty is not overburdened. Then there are challenges for students also. Now why challenges? Because some of the students, or we can say that most of the students are there, those who may be exposed to this learning format for the first time. So some students are not used to of the self responsibility also, because this blended mode has given the opportunity to the students that they can learn at their own pace. But for this, they will have to be self responsible, or they will have to take responsibility of their own learning. So this is the challenge. Now coming to remedy of these challenges are, one is the point which I have already shared, that necessary training and infrastructural support has to be given. Then the faculty, the universities, the educational institution must offer training to faculty and also provide the opportunity to experience online instruction. Not only provide the training, but also provide the experience of online instruction. And workload reduction should also be there, and new technologies, so that the financial support through grants and incentives should also be given to the teachers. Now, on the part of students should also be trained so that they are more comfortable using the tools. Like whenever they have any query, they should be able to post it on the discussion forum. They should be able to submit the assignments online, and they should be able to take online quizzes. Now comes, we have talked about the challenges of teachers, challenges faced by the students. Now coming to the duty. What is the duty of organization? We have already studied. We have already talked about this topic. Now duty of teacher is, teacher has to see that the class size is not a barrier for the student, because as we know that most of the students, they are fearful of speaking in public. So if the class would be a large one, then teacher has to take care of it. Then teacher may divide the students depending upon their capability. Like some of the students, if they are confident in doing more interactive projects, they can go for it. And some of half of the students, those who are not able to, they could be excused from the class to work on the online assignments. Then to develop the participation, to increase the participation and develop the higher order thinking in the students, it could be made, the students could be made more comfortable by creating a smaller group. Then now I would like to conclude that this blended learning is the future of the educational scenario globally, and it is here to stay. Even if this pandemic situation normalizes, this blended learning is here to stay. Now, given the unique opportunities that blended mode offers and the expectations from both the students and the instructors, the in-seat time, that is where the students are involved actively in the classroom, it has to be efficiently used to make this blended learning more successful and more effective. So if all these points are taken heed of and proper and doable implementation is done, it will definitely go a long way and provide an environment for blended learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Extremely informative, I must say, and intriguing, the presentation was. It also highlighted an issue which is prevalent and hidden from us. And the word that you said, it is here to stay. It really, it is here to stay, for sure. Ma'am, Professor Savita Rawat, Honorable Chairperson, please, ma'am.
Thank
let's
you,
continue the
Nivedita.
discussion.
Yes, Atulya, you presented a very good plan, but it's like a very costly plan, like for your institution only. That is for your institution, like your university. ICFA, you are from ICFA
Yes,
University?
Yes,
Yeah.
ICFA University.
Yeah. So please think of a cost-effective plan also. There must be like this and that, and this should be reduced, because the scenario is very different in the society. They lack in teachers, they lack in resources, they lack in internet and all. The students are also from very poor background. So we must think, because we are discussing in pluralistic society. And in pluralistic society, there are so many levels of communities. Some are providing good facilities to their children, but others are not. They are not capable of providing such facilities. So we must prepare a plan, a cost-effective plan for mediocre families, family students, and for institution like you, in which student institution you are working, that is superb, has so much facilities and infrastructure. So we can't compare these two extremes. So you can suggest, yes. But
Yes,
was
ma'am.
very nice presentation. Yes. आने वाला समय इसी का होगा, ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग का ही होगा, चाहे आप उसको थोड़ा कम कौशल के साथ, कम स्किल्स के साथ यूज करें, कम टूल्स के साथ यूज करें, या ज्यादा टूल्स के साथ यूज करें, कम रिसोर्सेस के साथ करें या ज्यादा रिसोर्स के साथ. बट टाइम इज कमिंग फॉर ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग ओनली, ऑनलाइन टीचिंग ओनली. होगा यही कुछ, क्योंकि इसकी आदत हमें तोड़नी नहीं पड़ेगी, है ना. और बहुत अच्छा आपका प्रयास. थैंक यू. Any question?
Thank you, ma'am.
If anybody want to ask something, Atulya is here to answer you. Nobody. Dr. Sangeeta Bihade left. Nivedita?
Yes, ma'am.
The only person, Dr. Sangeeta R. Bihade.
Yes,
Call her,
ma'am.
please. Thank you, Atulya.
Ma'am, I would like to say something. As you said that I have prepared a plan for higher education. Like if we talk about blended learning, it is suitable for the institutions, those who have less resources also, because there are certain technologies which uses 2G network also. Yes, ma'am.
You said reduce their burden and all that, but you
Yes,
know
ma'am.
about the school where the one teacher is taking 5 classes or 4 classes, or there are only 2 teachers in primary
Yes,
section. So
because
we must think of
cost cutting.
There are so many things to be considered. No? Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Atulya, ma'am. Moving on.
Thank you, Nivedita.
I want to ask one question. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I to this madam who's blended learning. Suppose
Yes,
you
ma'am.
want to write a lesson plan for blended learning.
Yes, ma'am.
How will you proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Because students using different methods of flip learning, different types, no. All the different types when students take. How will you proceed for a teacher training college? The students need to write a lesson plan. A blueprint should be there. No, if in a blended plan, blended learning, how will you proceed with a lesson plan?
Okay. Ma'am, very good question. The answer to this is would be like I would try to
not
answer
not
it.
only very good question, all higher education people must think. I am a retired principal from a B.Ed college, and every educator must think this is a problem. Very good, excellent. Blended learning is excellent. As you told, even though pandemic move out, we proceed with blended learning. Where is the direction? A teacher educator or a student teacher should have a proper before she goes to the class.
Yes.
How should she proceed for a blended learning blueprint, in your view?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, according
Others
to
also
my
can contribute to that. Tell me.
Okay. According to my view, like you are talking about the blueprint on lesson planning, through blended learning, what we can do is we can provide an opportunity for guided practice and independent learning also. Like if we are preparing a plan, One is the part where teacher can do, that is teacher can provide, teacher can show the model or any stimulus in order to provide learning to the students. And one part is independent, or you can say guided practice, where teacher can ask students to practically do that particular thing and share their experiences. Suppose if we take a case of topic force, then in case of this particular topic, teacher may, like in case of blended, we may ask a student to open the door and ask that, yes, if the, like, demonstrate that this is pull and push is force. And in case of that is guided practice, we may ask student to squeeze a ball, or we may ask students to stretch a rubber band. So that would be something that is required from the student's part, and one thing which is done by the teacher. Like the activity that could be teacher as a facilitator, teacher may ask the students to do, that would be done.
But that is a serious thing which all educators have to think about.
Yes, ma'am.
Because
Yes,
the
ma'am.
present, the student and teachers need to be guided properly. We are talking about the current teacher training program. In teacher training program, internship, very important part. Secondly, lesson plan. The term has not yet come in none of these speeches. That is a very serious thing. No, lesson plan should be properly drafted. For that, proper thinking and high order thinking and all, we had so much. Metacognition, high order thinking, everything. But that high order thinking should come even for teacher educators. And then they should draft one lesson plan in the curriculum and show the students and train them accordingly. Then they should go, because here in blended learning, different students take different modes of blended learning.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Flip learning, yes. So it is a serious thing. I feel we have to think it over.
Definitely,
Yes,
ma'am. I
ma'am,
completely
definitely.
agree with you. And extremely important.
Yes, everybody,
Okay.
all over the state, all over the nationwide, all teacher educators has to think about and draft one lesson plan.
Thank you, ma'am. Next
Thank
webinar
you.
will be
We
on
have-
lesson plan only.
For sure.
Yes. Okay.
Because we are
Proceed.
compelled with the
Proceed,
time limit.
Nivedita.
Proceed. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Thank you
coming
very
up
much for
next,
giving me that.
coming up next is Dr. Sangeeta R. Bihari, and she'll be presenting on the effectiveness of online education during COVID-19 pandemic, a comparative analysis between the perceptions of academic students and professional students of Sant Garge Baba Amravati University. Ma'am, are you here with us? Dr. Sangeeta, are you here with us? Unfortunately, I'm not able to see her in the people section as well. So I'd like to move ahead with the program. From high order thinking skills, blended learning approach, metacognition, incorporating student talk time, and for a healthy learning environment, our astute presenters have provided thorough insights on the theme contemporary teaching pedagogy in a pluralistic society. I'm in awe of the knowledge every presenter has shared. Moving ahead, I'd like to invite our Honorable Chairperson, Professor Dr. Savita Rawat, for the concluding remarks. Kindly unmute yourself, ma'am.
Sorry. Thank
No
you,
worries.
Nivedita.
Please.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome,
much.
ma'am.
First of all, I would like to congratulate National President and entire national body of SEAM organization, President SEAM, Uttarakhand chapter, Dr. Usha Pathak, convener of the international webinar on contemporary teaching pedagogy in pluralistic society, Dr. Chetna Thapa, organizing secretary, Uttarakhand chapter, and other eminent officials of Scene family, and thank all for giving me this opportunity. I also like to congratulate and thank to all the paper presenters in this boardroom, and also take my privilege to thank the eminent faculties present in the boardroom. I thank especially Ms. Nivedita Best for nice conduction of the program and helping me. Thank you, Nivedita.
Most welcome, ma'am. It's a privilege.
The theme, Contemporary Teaching Pedagogy in Pluralistic Societies, very relevant and significant issue of this era. In Boardroom 1, most of the papers were in article form and result of previous studies and review of related literature. Very few, I think the only one is the comparative analysis, and she has not presented the paper, Sangeeta R. Bihade. Most of the papers are in article form. We received 2 papers on blended learning approach, one on online education and one on online education in COVID time. The blended learning or the hybrid learning is an approach to education that combines online education material and opportunities for interaction online with traditional place-based classroom methods. It's also called physical classroom because the physical presence of student and teacher is necessary in this type of learning. But it becomes more challenging when we talk of the group work, managing homeworks, assignment, interaction with students, addressing individual differences, personal attention, etc. It needs a proper ICT training and competency to address all these. Otherwise, it will be a ritual like the classroom teaching with lecture method, as happens in the previous years. We had a paper on, very good paper on student talk time and teacher talk time. Yes, student talk time must be optimized and efficiently used by the teacher in enhancing students' ability at multidimensional level. Teacher must learn and be trained in such methods to use student talking time in fruitful way. What strategies and methodologies should be adopted to use quality student talk time? It should be noticed and focused. There was a paper on multiple intelligence, super paper, presented by Dr. Seema Bhushan, orchestrating multiple intelligences. Yes, indeed, it's very essential to recognize, honor, and nurture all the kinds of abilities a learner bears. She told a very simple way to recognize the abilities of student, the kind of intelligence they possess, multiple or single. But there is an urge to recognize these because the task starts from now. When we recognize those abilities, the task starts. The paper on homogeneity to multiculturalism and education by Ranjana Jha. Yes, it was a good paper, presented very well. And next was a folklore by Shruti Pant, a medium for holistic education. And I know, and everybody knows, that it's very effectual and powerful medium for the education in early school time or early childhood. We understand our culture, we understand surrounding of our society through these folklores. There are 2 papers on higher order skill. One is metacognition, which was I think it was the toppest topic, which was mostly discussed in all the sessions, and Dr. Soni Varghese elaborated it very nicely, and Dr. Pragati Bartwal presented metacognition, role in creating active learners. And the last paper, the Carl Rogers person-oriented approach. It's again an higher order skill and presented by R.D. Padmavati. All the approaches suggested by the paper presenters are acceptable in pluralistic society according to the different needs and levels of the learners. But all these demand high order training and competency in teachers. As I said so many times, after every paper, I said this. Teacher has to plan, practice, and evaluate. Everything is roaming around the teacher. If he's in front of the curtain or he's behind the curtain. To improve education scenario, education must move to less content and more towards enjoyable, discussion-based, experimental learning, exploring, where the student teacher both must learn how to create, how to learn, how to think, how to innovate, how to adopt. It's not a singular work. It's a joint venture. Both of them should be involved. It's an established fact. If we wanted to become an efficient part of this education system, we must meet with the professional standards of teachers as described in National Education Policy 2020, National Professional Standards of Teachers. Development of such professional competencies in teacher will definitely enhance the quality of teaching learning at all the levels. I'm sure the teacher empowered with professional competencies selected by NTA, the National Testing Agency, and updated with 50 hours continuously professional development. It's also from NEP 2020 CPD every year. As claimed in NEP 2020, will be able to meet out with expectation of our students in pluralistic society. I hope so. And I'm not only a hope, but I'm very much sure with all these competencies, with all these trainings, we will accomplish the goal. Thank you, organizers. Thank you, all eminent faculties present in boardroom and all the participants. And thank you, Nivedita. Thank you.
You're most welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Professor Savita Rawat, ma'am. You have really
Thank you, ma'am.
the interactive session and very thoughtful and insightful, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Sending you the name, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your sheer ingenuity and kindest words. My highest and profound regards to you. We as educationists resonated immensely to your ideas and notions, encircling the need to impart quality education with, as Socrates truly said, education is the kindling of a flame and not filling of a vessel. With this, I'd like to put an end to today's panel presentation session and begin with the valedictory session